friends. You are watching Hot Prospects, where we discuss how to turn your lead generation into a burning inferno. And we are here with my buddy, Ryan Smith. He is a real estate farmer, and I know he doesn't wear the overalls and the straw hat,
but not in public.
Not in public, yeah. But when he does, he doesn't wear a shirt with it either.
Exactly.
Right. I wanted to talk to you today about a concept that I like to discuss with my students. And I think that this is what really changes from just being a regular real estate agent to being one that people are compelled to hire you. And that is the concept of being their benevolent dictator. What does this sound like to you?
I have no idea where you're going to go with this. So you tell me and I'll see. I'll share my thoughts on it.
So the idea here is that a lot of buyers and sellers, they're hiring you because they need advice. They want some direction in their life. And so the dictator comes in when you say, look, I've got a plan for you. You interview them. Everybody doesn't get the exact same plan, but there's only so many. It's like, I need to sell my house and I need to buy one. Okay, you can either buy first and then sell. You can sell first, then buy. Maybe you could do a back-to-back. You could do a kick-out clause. You could actually close on one, move into a temporary quarters, and then move into your new. There's a bunch of different ways of doing this with different types of financing and strategies on how to achieve these things. Or even if it's just a buyer and they can only look, let's say, for 1 hour every Wednesday after work or something. That's the only time they can go out and look at properties. So anyway, my point is that we can create a strategy for them. But we also know that there are certain things that are pitfalls that they should avoid. And so we can be their dictator in this way of, here's how you do this. If you're hiring me, here's the way that I make cheeseburgers. Some people go to McDonald's for a cheeseburger. Some people might go to a fancy sit-down restaurant. You're still getting cheeseburgers, but they both have a different process by which they manufacture that cheeseburger. So I'm telling you that when you come to my restaurant, this is the way I do it. And I think that a lot of agents struggle with this because they want the client to dictate everything. Oh, it's the client's decision. It's the client's decision. It's the client's decision. But ultimately, it's my decision whether or not we work together. And it's not just the client. So this is where that whole, if you prospect, gives you options, more prospecting, more options. So I don't have to take on problem clients or those who I don't want to work with or that don't want to eat the type of cheeseburger that I manufacture, right? So the benevolent part comes in where, as a dictator, I'm only doing what's in your best interest. So think of this more like the parent. The kid wants to eat sugar for dinner. The parent says, no, you have to eat vegetables and go to bed on time. The child, if left to their own device, will run all around, never put pants on, go play in the rain, eat the sugar, stay up all night. The parent has to be a benevolent dictator in their child's life. Otherwise, that child will turn out rotten. And it's the same thing with your client. Their transaction can go very bad if you let them make every call. Now, ultimately, it's their decision. Yep. But part of the benevolent dictator is to give them their pros and cons and to suggest alternatives to whatever they are saying that they want to do and help to remind them ultimately where their needs and wants lie, because they tell you up front my needs and wants and whether they're a buyer or seller. And then if they want to go off track, it's up to us to say, no, you said this. Has that changed? No. Well, then doing this thing is counterproductive to your goals. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it, because I think that in order for that to work, though, you have to have confidence in yourself. And this is where newer agents may not have that cadence or that candor to be able to do that. And I think you have to know that what you are telling them is the best interest. That can go awfully wrong if you have your own best interest at heart. So you have to be truly driven by the client's best interest to do
the benevolent part.
Exactly. That's a must. And I think a lot of agents go to the dictator part. And I think also on the flip side, we see people go to the benevolent part without the dictator part. And they're going, I just want what's best for you. But they're not willing to put and say, no, this really is what's best for you. And so I think finding that balance is a great way to do it. And I have a similar view on it, is like I talk in one of our videos about like a medical world. Is a doctor's job is they have an oath to take care of you and make a diagnosis and give you the right prescriptions and give you what they need to do. It's looking for the opportunities to help them and give them in a way that they're going to actually do it. And I find it's tricky sometimes when a client thinks they know what they want or think they know what's best. And I would say the benevolent dictator is the ultimate approach until you have third party people coming in. This is where it gets tricky. And I was going to ask you, how do you balance that? Because I've had that where it's like, I've got a client, they go, yep, I want to work with you. I understand it. And then you get the father-in-law stepping in, or the mom showing up, or the neighbor going, oh, they shouldn't do this, or the market's going to crash. And now you're kind of fighting a third party battle. How do you handle that? Because I think that is something that I've seen where deals go sideways, and it's not the person that you're working with, it's the outside.
Yeah, I call those people decision makers. And so it could be a parent, it could be a sibling, it could be a trusted friend. And the idea is that when we set the presentation appointment, that we ask, do you have any decision makers in your life? And most people are going to say no. And then I describe what that is. This is a person who's not going to be the buyer or the seller, but they're someone who you look to for advice, and they may influence what your decisions ultimately are. Is there anyone in your life like this? And they say no. And then I ask them again, because almost everybody has one of these, especially younger people or much older people. A lot of times when seniors are selling, their adult children are the decision makers. Oftentimes when younger people are buying, then their parents are decision makers. And so then I say, look, is there anybody who is you're going to want to sleep on it and then want to talk to somebody else? And like, well, like a parent, a close friend. When they finally say yes, then invite them to the presentation. Because you see, part of it is I can't rely upon this principle giving my presentation to the decision maker with me not being there, because I'm the one who can sell these ideas, not them. Otherwise, this would be their job. So I can't rely upon the principal to go and explain what I have to say. So I need to bring this decision maker into the meeting. If they need to go with us on showings, then that's what they need to do. If they need to be on the phone with us when we're crafting our offer, that's wonderful. So I'm happy to accommodate those people, but they need to be part of the conversation. It's something that we should not shy away from.
Yep.
Even more so when it comes to prospecting, when I talk about the benevolent dictator, it's having this attitude where you understand the process of buying or selling a property, and you know which steps go first and second and third. And oftentimes that prospect wants to go into step 3. And so being the benevolent dictator in the prospecting role is repeating yourself. Oh, actually, in my experience, there's lots of scripts, in my experience, fill in the blank. This is the reason why you would want to do this first. And then ultimately have that attitude of, come on, let's go do it. Come on, let's go do it. Come on, let's go do it now. Let's go do it tomorrow. Let's go do it in an hour. And that hustling them, almost corralling them like a cowboy, to try to corral them and put them into the pen because it's time to go to bed or whatever that thing is that guy's doing. And as the benevolent dictator in the prospecting world, then you can actually be the impetus to make a sale happen. So as we were discussing previously, that sometimes on another video, that sometimes somebody you talked to them 6-12 months ago and they wanted to buy a house, and then you find that lead, you call them back and they say, oh, I'm so sorry, I meant to call you. They still want to buy a house.
Yeah.
They would have bought one 6 or 12 months ago had you been their benevolent dictator at that time. Now, a year has gone by, they still haven't bought a house. If you have that attitude with them, and come on with me, I'll make everything all right. I'll have my mortgage guy give you a call. Have you talked to this person yet? Don't worry, I'll take care of that. All right, so let's go look at properties this weekend. Be the one suggesting things. Let's go do this. Let's go sit down over here. Let's go look at that over there. Keep moving the ball forward, because when you tell me you want to buy a house, I'm all hands on deck until that's accomplished.
Yeah, exactly. And I think having a system that is a step-by-step system that you can show them is going to help them buy into that as well. Versus if you're flying by the seat of your pants and you're going, yeah, we could do this, or let's try this. They're not going to work with you because they're afraid of that. So this is where I also think having a named system and having steps in that process named, so you can tell them, like, remember we talked about this is when we do this, or this is what's going to happen next, and you set that expectation. They buy into it at a much higher level when there's that process that they can physically see, mentally imagine it, and understand that process. So I think having that and the confidence to go, this is how it's going to work. Just like you mentioned earlier, is having a McDonald's burger and the fancy burger. you're not going to ask them to make a McDonald's burger at this fancy restaurant because this is the process. This is, if you want that, you're welcome to go over there and get a McDonald's hamburger, and it's a fraction of the price, but this is what you hired me for. And you can do that when you have that process in place, and it becomes easier to build that trust where people go, oh, okay, you have a process. And that's all they want. They just want to know that there's a process that you're going to follow, and there's a system, and this is why I get the results. And you can show them that. That takes away most of the objection handlers as well, because they're like, okay, the other agent didn't have anything like that. This is the process.
Yeah, it's kind of like having that sign when you go to the shopping mall and you're trying to find yourself on the map. It says, you are here. You have that map for them and say, look, you are here. You're at step 1. Then here's 2 and 3. And then you can describe the whole thing and remind them, oh, remember how we talked about that's a bad idea? We need to do this thing first. And they're like, oh, yeah. Because buyers especially, they have all these ideas of how things are going to happen. And we're going to do this and then that. And so when you slow them down and say, actually, there's a system, there's a process here. Some people might say, screw you. Fine. Many more people want that benevolent dictator in their life because they feel like, whether it's right or not, they feel like you know what you're doing and that you have their best interest and that you're going to help get them safely across the finish line and meet their goal. And that's worth gold.
Yep. Your confidence instills confidence in them, and that's what they want. They're hiring you to do that. And I'll just share quickly one thing, and then we got to jump out of here. But I had someone, I was coaching someone, they freaked out in the middle of the transaction and they kind of panicked. And I kind of set them down and I said, listen, I said, your client hired you big bucks to remain calm and to solve the problem for them. And that shift in their mind, they're like, oh shit, you're right. Yep. That's what I'm here for. And that's what they want. So that you have to be that. That's where the dictator comes in. It's like, you have to be calm. You have to have a plan in place and you have to be confident in what you're doing, and they'll follow you, and it's going to be for their best interest.
Yeah. And on that dictator point as well, it's okay to sometimes say, no, I won't do that. Because it is going to crash everything down. Now, once you've signed agency with them, you're kind of stuck. But that's why you have all these conversations up front and make sure that everybody understands their role and what's going to happen on a timeline, because there are some things I will not do.
Yep.
And I need you to know that right now, because otherwise, when we get to that point, then I'm going to have to say, yeah, I can't do that. Remember, we talked about this. In fact, I used to have a little stipulation in my agency agreements, and I would tell the buyer or seller this. I would say, okay, guess what? You are ultimately the boss, and you get to choose how this goes. Every decision. I'm going to give you my advice. I'm going to give you the pros and the cons for each of these. If there's something that I think that you want to do that's really dumb, I'm going to tell you. Yeah. And then if you still want to do it, I'm going to tell you again that I think that's a bad idea. And if you still want to do it, then I'm going to ask you to sign a piece of paper that says, I wanted to do this really dumb thing, and Peter told me over and over that it was a dumb idea, and I did it anyway. And then I'm going to have you sign that, okay? And they laugh and they say, all right, fine. And then later on, we get in this conversation. I say, that's a bad idea. And then a bad idea again. And then I say, remember when I told you I was going to make you sign something that says that you're doing something dumb? And then they just laugh and they say, all right, never mind.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for your insight on these chats, man. It's been great. And if you out there have found value in this conversation, then, watch another video, share this with a friend, give us a thumbs up. I know Ryan needs thumbs up in his life.
We could all use a little more thumbs up.
We can all use more thumbs up. So we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.